introduce yourself? Why are we here?
Well, Duncan, thank you so much for having me on. My name is Chad Hardy. I'm the Chief Operations Officer at Payroller. So we are an Australian-based payroll software company that really supports micro to medium-sized businesses. We're here today really to talk about kind of payroll, the payroll industry, things that are happening in superannuation, and our partnership and relationship with Beam and Australian Retirement Trust.
Payroller's how many years old?
2019. Really fun history because we come from a solar founder. So Tim, our founder, was a Tyler. And so he put himself
Tim the Tyler. It really writes itself.
And Tim the Toolman Tyler. We're going to get sued by, I think, NBC in the US for home improvement. That's a niche joke. So Tim the Toolman, the Tyler, he put himself through university tiling and then decided he wanted to go work in software. So he put down the trowel, picked up a computer, went onto YouTube and taught himself how to code. His accountant said to him, hey, by the way, you are going to need to do this STP thing for payroll come 1 July 2019. This is something like April. And he went, sounds like an opportunity. In 3 months, he then built a software platform. And he went from 0 users, effectively on July 1, to something like 8,000 by the end of July and something like 14,000 by the end of October, and some making mid 25,000 by February 2020, right before COVID. And then with COVID, it kept taking off. We are really trying to be big advocates for small businesses. Everyone's doing it really tough at the moment. Like the shockwaves that have come out of 2020 really haven't receded. It's just the next wave of the next bad things that everyone's trying to deal with.
I guess since 2019, emerging trends would be STP, and then there's Payday Super, STP2. There's also stapling. There's also, changes in the way businesses are doing business. Is there something that you think has really interrupted business as usual in your world?
It's funny. So our world's a little bit different than our customers because we build the software for them. And we kind of come at it this approach where we want to take all the things off their plate that might actually interrupt their world. So for us, like we want to be eating those things up and then just consolidating it to make it easy for everybody so that they're not spending all of their time sweating these details. It should just be click and done. So we don't want them thinking about STP or STP2.
So there's a huge amount of people out there that are dealing with running a small business on their own or maybe with 1 or 2 people. And that idea of STP shouldn't even come into their heads. It should just be dealt with through technology. What's your thoughts on that? How involved do you want people to be, or do you think employers need to be in all of these tech things?
They should know that they have forms of obligation, and they should know that their software provider or their accountant is taking care of that for them, right? When you're running your business, I know I've got my person at the front, they're running cash. I'm overseeing the things coming in the back. I've got my shop people on the floor. I've got my people in the right place, and I've got my payroll software taking care of me where I need to be.
You want people to know what their obligations are without having to deal with it. Where's the line though? At what point is it becoming like, okay, well now they just don't need to know the words STP because technology's just taken over? Where do you see that line?
They need to be leaning on their software providers to ensure that they're providing them with what they need to do their job and having confidence in them. And like our brand is that...
If you haven't noticed, there's a new brand on the shirt.
There's the brand. We did a little bit of an update recently. You might see that on our website. But we want people to have trust and confidence in the brand. Why? Because we want to take care of people. We come in as private industry where we solve the problems that basically the regulators are making for small businesses. With 98% of the market in Australia being small businesses, they don't have the ability to deal with that because it's not their job. But they have an obligation to do so.
We don't want an employer thinking, I need to do that. I need to pay my super next. Then I need to do my STP reporting next. I need to do this ATO thing next. We want them just to go, I've got Payroller and I've got Beam, so I don't have to worry about any of this. As you get up into the bigger worlds, into corporate businesses where you've got full-time specialists, you've got people who can deal with this and you want to be more involved in the step-by-step details, absolutely, there's a process for that and we can deal with that as well. But I think for the micro and small, it's really important that they know what their obligations are, but they don't need to know what the process is.
They don't need to know the detail. You don't need to know the painful, granular detail that it just hurts. But they just need to know, yes, I've got an obligation, it's done. I have to pay my staff when they come in. I've got to pay them super. I've got to, withhold money for payroll tax. Cool. But it's taken care of. Why? I've got accurate stuff in my system, right? I know when I hit the go button that Payroller is taking care of my payroll, Beam is handling my superannuation, and then when Payday Super comes in, all that's going to be basically tied together, and it's going to be that one-click submission, and it's just taken care of.
How much trust are you ready to put into augmentation and tech now? And how much do you think we'll be putting in the future?
Going back to our first conversation point, it's that as a business owner, they should be aware of what their obligations are. If I'm the business owner, I know what my obligations are. I then hand it to the person that does the job. It's a bit of a black box. So like science or magic happens here, and then there's the outcome. Now, as the owner, I should be able to look at that outcome and go, okay, cool. Have my payments been made? I need to make sure that I've got my super pay to my people on payday. They've got their pay, and then I've got my payroll tax ready to go. My 3 boxes are ticked. I'm done. I'm happy. I close that book. I'm going to move on to my next thing. There is a level of trust they have to have, but I think there's trust with verification. Otherwise, you're putting a lot of blanket trust in a system where you don't have visibility. And people need that visibility to ensure they have that trust.
Do you think we'll ever get to a point with payroll where we'll forget that any of this was ever a thing and it is just part of day to day and it just works?
There's going to be growing pains. I hope for us, it at some point becomes a bad memory where, we had to do this huge changeover. What was the real occurrence? What was the real thing happening there? And we can just say, okay, it's just part of it. Hopefully we'll get to that point. I think for most businesses, that is the point that they're in right now, right? For the 98% of small businesses, that should be the point. And if they're not there, they need to be seriously revising who their providers are. And for us in the industry, let's keep going, let's keep moving forward so that we can make it a more seamless experience. Things that are coming up and things that like have floated the surface but aren't yet mainstay, instant payments. Right, we're still waiting for the NPP and the Pay2 system to be fully fledged in all business accounts so that if you touch a button, your pay lands, your super lands. There's lots of advantages that happen as we improve the technology that underpins the system. And you just forget about the fact that how long ago was it that you used to get a physical check? And you had to take that check and you'd go to the bank and then the bank would take it and then they would take time to clear it and then you get your funds.
Do you recognize any changes in attitudes with your users? Thinking 2019 to now, what are the questions you were being asked then versus now?
I think the headline question doesn't really change, which is, why do I have to do this? These businesses, they just want to go forward and they want to do their business. If I run a surf shop, I want to go rent my surfboards. If I'm a tour business, I just want to go take people out my boat. Why do I have to do this change? Why are these things being imposed upon me? And so businesses say, why do I have to do this?
Do you think then those questions remain legislative based? Why do I have to do this? Why am I doing this?
Just bit by bit, I think the government's working on one piece at a time. It's like, okay, cool, small bit. Okay, get that into position, eat it. Okay, now this is the new norm. Awesome, we're settled. Great, this is the next new thing you have to change. And this is the next, and this is the next, and the next. So there's very, very clear oversight by the government and ability to track everything that's happening and to get visibility into that. And ultimately, that's for tax purposes, right? And same thing with what's happening in businesses. All of our transition has been from paper-based into digital and directly to the ATO. And kind of on a right now basis.
Do you think the technology that we provide as an industry is keeping up with the complexity of doing business in Australia?
I hope so. Because individually, if we're not keeping up and our competitors are, we're gonna fall to the wayside. Right? With Payroller, we found an opportunity in the market and we broke in and we got a really big advantage from coming into market when we did. In terms of the complexity of business in Australia, is anything actually changing that we need to deal with from a payroll or a superannuation perspective that engages with that? I think cross-border connections and cross-border transactions, that's a big one that we probably don't deal in. That's one that we do look at and think about how international transfers do work. You can see the dramatic effect of that on the domestic consumption. So how do we look at that from a payroll perspective? We're very happy to not have to participate.
Opt out of participation. I like it. It's not a problem.
Even our relationship, we looked at the superannuation submission and we went, wow, we could go and build that, but here's someone who already does a really great job of it. What's better, us to go build this whole thing or us to just build the thing we need to do to integrate with you guys? And then it's done. And it's a seamless process. We can serve people now, or we can spend 2 years trying to build this whole thing out and get it done. I just went, yeah, this one. I like this one. I like this easy one. Why? Because that's not what our business is. Our business is helping our customers over here. And our customers want that component. Well, you guys are great. Let's plug that in. Because with the government regulations coming in, you do need those plugins. And so our business is trying to keep adding in those bits ourselves and then plug in the big components like you guys. It just goes back to the small business owner. There's complexity in STP and payroll. Do they want to deal with that? No.
With Payday Super, at what point are people going to feel the pain and then go, this has to change? We can't keep doing it the same way.
Payday Super, they're going to realize it when it hits their wallet. So cash flow implications are going to be big. you need to speak to your financial advisor and you need to be looking at your books just to say, hey, can I meet these obligations when they are due? Unfortunately, we see with everything, it's going to get to that last minute and then people are going to go, oh, I got to change now because I don't have to do it. I don't have to do it. I don't have to do it. Oh no, I need to make this like a very sudden course change July 1, 2026. Because there are people who use us as Payroller, but they don't use Beam. And I am the payroll admin for my company and blows my mind. I do one click, and it's done. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to do anything. But there are people who do go to the clearinghouse. If they have to go from no payroll software and no automated super submission to a full one, they're going to have to do a lot of setup. I really hope that they start in advance of that, because adoption of new technology and new software, it is painful because you have to go through all that admin again, and so you're just replicating work. But it's going to be better than not having a solution and definitely not paying any of the fines that are going to come with it.
Do you want to wait for the pain to hit you, or can you get ahead of it and fix it before that pain catches you, really? Do you feel like that sentiment exists, or is it hit the wall and then change?
It's probably going to be hit the wall and change unless an amazing solution is offered in advance. That's, I think, the big pain point is always that transition. I don't want to try something new. Why? Because I have to change, but it's easy to use and you can make that transition without pain. Then really that's what one should be looking for. A lot of pressure is really put on small businesses. We've got really great concern for small businesses in Australia because it's really difficult. It's really constraining. And sometimes when you're starting a small business, you're basically just buying a job. It can be really challenging being a small business owner. And we see that there's a lot of very small businesses and then some very big, but very few businesses up at the top. I love the ABS data. It is phenomenal stuff. I'm a big nerd. I'm just gonna look right down the paper like, I love numbers, I love the data, I love what we do with payroll. Every time the report gets released, we go and we reanalyze it and we look at how we are performing in our categories. And we see a lot of what's happening there for businesses and we'd like to keep an eye on it. We've got great concern for that space. We've got a lot of care for it as well. The complexity that's gonna keep coming into these businesses is that they will need multiple software solutions unless it gets rolled into one and an easy interface, which is what we really try to do.
So it's been very good having you here. We are in the countdown nearly. We're just over a year till payday kicks off. What do you want to tell people as we prepare? Like, what's the message that you want to get out to those people?
The key message to anybody who needs to use a payroll software in advance of payday super coming into effect on July 1st, 2026 is just get ahead of it, right? Get onto a software platform, get onto it now, make sure that they are going to be taking care of you and that they're going to get that handled for you and they're going to be ready to go, because you don't want to have to spend your July 1st or your June 30th or your July 2nd having to deal with that problem when you could have done it in advance. It shouldn't be a major issue, right? You should see a seamless transition. And if your provider is not providing you with that, then you need to look somewhere else. Get it taken care of so you don't have to worry about it, so you can focus on your business.
Thank you, Chad. I hope to speak to you again soon about this.
Duncan, absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me in. And hopefully everything goes smoothly with Payday Super. Yeah, hopefully.